I live at home with my lovely mother and father. So basically, my dad worked for the US government in Kurdistan, and I think it was George Bush that decided to bring 5,000 Kurdish people that were working for the US government to the US. So, yeah, that's how we came here. My parents, they were with other friends and family that had also came here. So, they kind of just grew up as a community together. My dad worked right away. They went into projects, houses that we all lived in, so we're all close by. They all got jobs and they just slowly worked their way up, and we are here now with. So I would say I grew up pretty similar, and I feel like kind of different in their own like quirky ways. Um, for example, we never really celebrated Christmas, but all my friends did, and I'd always be so sad the day we go back home after break, and we would just go over what they got for Christmas, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't get anything. We don't celebrate Christmas, but we do celebrate a different holiday called Eid, which is basically like Christmas. And I always like to brag because we get that twice a year. I was pretty happy growing up. Like, I never worried about anything. My parents always had food at the table, and there was always funny things that happened at the house, but I'm sure that's with every other family. So I don't look very Middle Eastern, I guess you could say. Growing up, nobody really knew that I was a Muslim and Kurdish up until really high school, when they started noticing that I would speak a different language, around like when my parents would call or when friends would come over, but they never really said anything about it. They were never quick to judge. They were always just my friend. And I've never, thankfully, experienced racism. I've never, nothing bad has ever happened to me in that way. But I think it would have been different if I were to wear like a headscarf or something. So things would be totally different. For a while, I kind of felt isolated when we started to learn about 9/11, and I was kind of scared to tell them like, oh, I'm a Muslim, but not all Muslims are like this. And the what ever happened. I remember kids would be like, well, they'd be like, Muslims are terrorists, and I'd be like, well, that's where you're wrong. That's not that. And then that's actually the first time I came out as Muslim. I don't know if my parents had anything to affect with it, but I believe we felt pretty accepted once we explained where from Iraq we were. We were like, oh, we're not really from Iraq, we're from Kurdistan. And we'd be like, it's north of Iraq. And then when a lot of people would like not know where that is. They'd be like, oh, where is that? What is that? So Kurdish people are not very well known until recently. I could see why wars happen. Yes, wars aren't the best, but it somehow also resolves the problems. I don't always think they're the best option. I believe, if leaders would actually, sit down and like talk to each other. Like, I feel like if you were to sit down and talk to a leader and be like, Ayo, what you're doing is kind of not okay. Like, you shouldn't treat your own people like that. So sometimes war has to be the answer to see somebody doing that. So I'm not against it, but I'm also not totally with it. I remember when I was younger, the whole Saddam Hussein thing. I vaguely remember it, but I remember we would always have to get a prepaid card and talk to my family overseas. And it was like the worst thing ever. You only had a certain amount of minutes to talk to family. And half of the time they wouldn't answer their phones. And that always would freak us out because Saddam Hussein was doing a lot to the Kurdish people, especially in Slimani, which is where the villages are. They would steal from the villagers. They would kill them for no reason or take them in and put them into war for what happened. And I was always afraid my uncle or family down there would get involved. And anytime we would call, I always wanted to talk to every single one of them to make sure they were okay. But they would always, no matter what, they would always say, yeah, we're fine, we're great, we're doing okay here. Like, they always made it seem like there wasn't any other problems. But really, there was a lot of poverty, and we would always send them money. We would help them through it, and they would always appreciate it, no matter what. So my father's a Republican, and he was always happy that there was US Army down in the Middle East. I think in a way, since he was involved with the US military, in a way I think he felt like, okay, they're protected over there. we're okay. The Middle East will be okay as long as the US is there, because technically I think he thinks like the US is like really strong army. I guess it is, but like there's stronger armies out there. We feel really betrayed, and my heart hurts every time I think about it. The fact that Donald Trump said that the Kurds never really helped with anything, he was wrong. We, again, like I said, we helped with Saddam Hussein, we helped with Osama bin Laden, and we're helping with ISIS. I don't know if you guys knew, but the Peshmerga, basically the freedom fighters, are working their asses off just to keep ISIS off. They have caught them and they have put them in jail, so many more than what the US and any other country has done. For Donald Trump to take out the army in Syria that were protecting Turks and the Syrian people, basically just put like a hole in all of our hearts and made us feel betrayed and not trustworthy of the US. I think it could do better. Obviously, I'm sure Donald Trump had a reason for doing this, but he should have figured out a way around it to at least help out the Kurds. Give them weapons, give them anything to at least help them through it if he knew he was going to do this. I'm still pretty bitter with it. I mean, who wouldn't be? They're just gonna come back and with a new, stronger leader. I still don't think it was the right decision, because they were not only there for that reason, they were also there to help protect the Kurds from Turkey. I feel like the people now know more about the Kurds and what they've been doing than before. So when I tell somebody, oh, I'm a Kurd, I actually feel proud in telling them, because most of the time it's a positive outcome, and they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry I heard about what happened, or oh, you guys are really tough and you guys fight. Especially since everybody thinks Middle East is such a sexism place, since all the girls have to be covered up and all of this and blah blah blah. No, this is just a religion. This is just how we go by it. And I don't think people realize that it's not sexism, it's the woman's choice. Like, she can do, if anything, Muslims are pretty equal rights, and they're like, in the Quran, it's all equal rights no matter what. So I think it's pretty cool that we're pretty similar to the American Army, but we're just not as big as the American Army. That's the only thing. I feel like if we were bigger, we would definitely be pretty good. What I think is going to happen is, so the Turkish are already allied with the US, right? I think the Kurdish will no longer be allied with the US. They'd be like, okay, we don't need your help. You go do your own thing and we'll do our own thing. So I think they won't go back unless if it's like desperately needed, which I doubt that'll happen. I don't think they're gonna ask the US for any help because of Donald Trump, but I think if it were a different president, they probably would. I don't think the Kurds would ever forgive the US for this. Like, this, innocent children and innocent people are being killed every single day. I feel like our generation has been raised a little differently. We understand things and we are more acceptance of things. I think us raising our children will help the world a little bit more. I think the future will be pretty good. As especially being Kurdish, I would be very proud of telling my kids like what had happened and how proud we should be for where we came from and where we are now. I'm actually kind of excited about it, and I'll be proud of it. What Donald Trump did was very disrespectful. I think he was seeing it in a cocky way, like, ooh, I took down ISIS. No, you didn't. It wasn't just you. It was also a whole bunch of other people that were involved. People that you betrayed. I think it was very childish and inconsiderate of him to do that. He has a very childlike manner, and I think people will become irritated to it, and they'll try to come at him more. So in a way, I think it's kind of dangerous for himself as well. He really needs to think about what he's going to say and how he's going to say it. People are sensitive nowadays, but with what the US is having, I feel like are really easy problems to resolve. Racism Why is that still a thing? Why can't you just look at somebody equally the same you look at yourself? Is it really that hard for you? Why is that a problem? Where other countries, they're dealing with war every day, they're dealing with poverty and starvation. I think the problems we're dealing with now are not that like big compared to what they have. I feel like our problems are easier to resolve than the problems that they have. So in a way, yes, US is doing better country wise, but we also have our own problems, like what I just said. I don't think anybody is going to help each other in the world. As sad as that is, everybody's really selfish, and I think the world will not be that great, but I hope in the future it will be, because we will have different people with different points of views and are more, like I said, open-minded, and hopefully they'll be less selfish. So I do have hope for the future and having them in a way help change the world, but that's also a lot to ask for. Deep down, I feel like everybody feels that way, deep, deep down.